What's up guys, it's Ghoul, and today we're going to be reviewing some of the characters that came out today. I took a look at these characters a little bit before we started. Let's look at Claude, I think his name is? Also, this is interesting to me. They have these question marks. I'm a little excited to know what's coming. Let's look at Claude. So, leader skill is dark and win allies defense 20%. Nice, not bad. Defense is always nice, and him being a defense type definitely benefit him a lot. This is your main character that you decide to run. His design also looks pretty cool, like the whole Grim Reaper style-esque. He looks kind of like a Bloodborne character, and I enjoy that a lot. His first skill is called Paths of Peace. 70% chance to taunt all enemies one turn and apply Veil of Phantasm to all allies, excluding the caster, for one turn. The caster is affected by Dirge Ghost Girl. Dirge Ghost Girl we'll get into later, but 70% chance to taunt and all that. But that's only when he's affected by his final skill, which it's a little odd that his passive is only based off his third skill, but I mean, it's a very strong passive though. It allows all your allies to dodge while you taunt the enemies. So if you're really tanky, at least you won't have to worry about your allies dying. His next move is called Spirit Trade. And this is, it says, changes an ally's lower HP ratio to that of the caster if the caster is affected by Dirge Ghost Girl at the end of the turn. So, if you have a low HP ally, and you're affected by this third skill at the end of the turn, that ally will gain as much health as you do, or at least percentage-wise. So if you're at 80% health, that ally who's at 15 will go up to 80%. It's a very powerful ability, especially if it affects you at the end of the turn, where all your damage is done. So I find I feel that's really good. His first skill is Death's Arrow. It inflicts damage equal to 55% of attack to 3 enemies, 30% chance to taunt them for 1 turn, 50% chance to decrease attack by 30% for 2 turns if the target is taunted. Now, that's pretty decent. 55%, he's a defense, he's not going to do a lot of damage, he's not meant to, but it's a 30% chance to taunt every single one of the enemies that get attacked. So, all in all, 90%, you may or may not get it off, but most of the time you'll get at least 1 off, I would assume. And if they're taunted already and you use this skill, you have a chance to reduce their attack by 30%, which is extremely good for a tank, because if the enemy has less attack, you have a less chance of dying. His second move is called Spirit Tomb. It inflicts damage equal to 200% of attack to 1 enemy, 50% chance to put the target to sleep for 2 turns, 35% chance to brand the target for 2 turns. Brand does damage over time. It'll be 30% of his own attack on the enemy every turn. Sleep puts the enemy to sleep. They can't attack unless you hit them, then they wake up. The next, his skill 3 is called Final Breath. Inflicts damage equal to 165% of attack to 3 enemies. 50% chance to apply Looming Death to targets for 2 turns if they have any debuffs. Looming Death will cause enemies to die when the debuff is completely finished. And it's extremely powerful. 50% is a really high chance to do that. Given it's on a skill 3 and it has a 7-turn cooldown, I guess it's not as strong, but it's still very strong. He applies Dirge Ghost Girl to the caster for 2 turns to grant damage immunity, but not the penetration damage will also penetration damage will not be included, so he will still take penetration damage. If an enemy removes the Dodge Ghost Girl effect from the caster, the enemy falls asleep for 2 turns. So this is a good defensive way. So if you do get this buff off, you are immune to damage for 2 turns, and if your buff gets removed, the enemy falls asleep for 2 turns, which gives you time to, you know, if your character's in low health, you can defend and heal, and when the enemy turn comes around, it'll skip their turn, then you can defend, heal again, and then the enemy will skip that next turn, then you can attack. So it's really good. He's not a bad character. I'd give him a really, I'd say he's a really good character. Look at his skills. I like that. I like his ultimate. That's pretty cool. That's actually really cool. The whole eyeball thing is a little creepy, but it's really cool. Yeah, he's a really good character. I would not mind pulling him. Sadly, I'm going for one of the other characters, but I would pull for him if I had a really good team to put him on. I don't have a good team that he would fit on. Like, my dark team is not good, and I barely use dark units. So let's go look at the other character that you can summon for, and then we'll look at the admin character. So Morgan is the she's a fire attack type. I forgot to mention that Claude was a defense dark type. Her leader skill is increase fire allies attack by 40%. Now, this is the highest percentage I've seen on leader skill without a restriction. As you know, we do have higher attack increases with 60%, but that requires you to have 5 of the same units on the same team. This just increases any fire allies attack by 40%. So if you don't have Electra, or if you're short 1 or 2 fire units, you can still run her, get the 40%. It's not as much, but you're still getting a sizable increase compared to the 20% that you get on a regular unit. So her passive skill is inflicts damage equal to 50% of attack to a bleeding target at the start of the turn. So every turn, if a target is bleeding, any targets that are bleeding, they will take 50% of what her attack is at the start of her turn. Kinda broken. Increases the caster's attack by 10% for 2 turns when attacking a bleed target. So if a target is bleeding and she hits you, she'll get a 10% attack increase for 2 turns, which can stack up to 5, giving her a 50% attack increase. Which, if she has a 50% attack increase and she's taking 50%, and the target's taking 50% of her attack, that's a lot of damage. Applies the status Demon Sword Bloody Petal to the caster upon killing an enemy to inflict 30% additional damage. So, I had to read this a little bit to myself and think what it would mean, and my conclusion is this buff, whenever you attack an enemy, it'll do 30% more additional damage to that enemy you attack, which is pretty decent. I would say that's extremely good. It's a free additional damage just from killing an enemy. Next we have Morrigan's Madness. It does 50% chance to apply Demon Sword Bloody Petal to the caster for 2 turns when attacking, revives with 50% HP, and becomes a Berserker for 3 turns upon death. So, Demon Sword Bloody Petal, we know, will do 30% more additional damage. Berserker allows your character to become uncontrollable. So your character is still active, but your character will act as if it's on auto mode. Even if you're playing manual, your character will act as if it's on auto mode and you won't be able to use them. Just like if your character is afflicted with, I think it's melancholy. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but It's one of the debuffs that when your turn comes around, your character just attacks or does a random skill. Guarantees counterattack and multi-strike, and decreases damage by 25% once the caster becomes Berserker. So, when she's Berserker, she will always multi-strike and she will always counterattack. And she takes 25% less damage. So, if you have her, if you have her at 60, make her a Berserker, and just keep her healed, right? If you keep her healed, she'll be taking less damage, so she'll be tanking a lot. And it's a flat 25% damage decrease. It's not giving her more defense, it's just decreasing damage all around. Her first skill is Carnivorous Sword. Inflicts damage equal to 100% of attack to one enemy, 35% chance to cause bleeding for 30% of attack for 2 turns. So, this goes in hand with her passive skill. Her second attack is Bloody Petals Dance. Inflicts damage equal to 120% of attack to a target and 2 adjacent enemies. 35% chance to cause bleeding for 30% of attack to 2 turns. Removes 1 buff from the target. So this being a AoE attack, sorta, this gives her a lot more viability than just being a single target. I assume she would have been a single target since she was a sword user, but she's not. And 120% isn't that high of an increase, but it's a pretty sizable amount of damage. It has a chance to bleed as well, and this being on 3 targets, it's 35%. It's 35 on both. It's being on 3 targets, so it's also really good. And it also removes buffs from the target. I'm not sure if it's counting all 3 targets or just 1. I would assume all 3. So being able to remove buffs from 3 different targets at the same time is pretty good. Her final skill 3 is inflicts damage equal to 300% of attack that ignores defense to one enemy, 60% chance to make the target unable to revive for 2 turns, decrease the skill cooldown of skill 3 by 2 turns if the attack fails to kill the target. So if you use this skill at the beginning of a boss match, you'll get it in 5 more turns as opposed to 7. So it's a good opening move, and it's a good finishing move as well. I enjoy it. I like that a lot. Let's look at her skills. Nice and quick 2 flashes. Second skill, rising uppercut with a slam down, and her personally, that's my favorite. Okay, I like Kali's skill 3 better, but I like her design. I like this character's design a lot more. And I also like her voice actor. I really enjoy the voice actor. Let's look at Kali, before we run out of time here. Her leader skill is increased attack by 40% to win allies. You know, just like Morrigan, just for attack. Let's also look at their names real quick. So Morrigan is the name of a goddess as well as Kali. So this is interesting. A little bit of inspiration. Her first skill for Kali is hides the caster for 1 turn at the start of the wave, 50% chance to hide for 1 turn when using skills. Poisons 3 enemies for 30% of attack for 2 turns if the caster is hiding at the start of the turn. So if she's hiding, it'll poison 3 random enemies, and I'm sure that's a guaranteed poison. Her second skill is activates Resolve upon taking fatal damage. Recover 100% of HP and blind all enemies for 1 turn once Resolve is activated. Inflicts 40% additional damage when attacking a target afflicted by damage over time. So, we'll get into her skills, and I'll let you know why this second skill is broken. Her first skill is also kind of broken. It's 50% to hide, right? And she will poison at the start of the turn if she's hiding. pretty hardcore. So she does a lot of damage over time, a lot of it. I can already imagine how bad I'm going to struggle when I try to do her raid. I call them raids, they're dungeons, but I call them raids anyway. Her first skill is inflicts damage equal to 100% of attack to one target, 35% chance to brand for 30% for one turn, brand does damage over time, decreases target's buff duration by one turn if the caster is hidden. So, if you're hidden, and you use your first skill, any buffs that the target has is going to go down by one, and you also have a chance to brand the target. With also having the chance to go back into hiding with that skill. Second skill, inflicts damage equal to 200% of attack to one enemy. This is the second unit I've seen this on. I haven't looked at every single unit, but this is the second unit I've seen this on. And this being an SSR with the other one being rare, makes this unit kinda stupid broken. 35% chance to cause bleeding for 30% of attack for 2 turns, inflicts damage equal to 30% of attack to 2 additional enemies and causes them to bleed for 30% of attack for 2 turns if the caster is hidden. So, if she's hidden, and you use this skill too, it's an automatic bleed. It's automatic bleed, which is good. She also has a chance to make herself go back into hiding. And if you have this skill, she'll do 40% more damage the next time she attacks that target that's bleeding or whatever. And with her being in hiding at the start of wave, she'll always poison the first she'll poison 3 enemies right when you start the game. Right when you start off a fight, she will poison 3 enemies. And waves are the 2 or 3 stages that you do in one scenario. If it was at the start of the battle, it'd be less broken, but at the start of wave, automatically poison 3 people, and you can do 40% more damage. Kinda not fair. And her final skill is inflicts penetration damage equal to 300% of attack to one enemy, inflicts 10% additional damage when attacking attack-type enemies. Increases caster's attack by 40% for one turn if the attack kills the target. Sorry. 300% is really good. Being on an SSR character, that's extremely good. Inflicts 10% additional damage when attacking attack-type enemies, which is going to show up as extra damage after the first damage number. It'll show up as a second damage number. Increases the caster's attack by 40% if you killed a target. So with her leader skill already giving her 40, or even if you have the, I don't know if there's a wind 60%, but if there is, then a wind 60% with this 40% increase is 100% more attack, which is kind of strong. So, she can brand targets, bleed targets, and poison targets, while also being able to do additional damage to those targets and revive herself while blinding enemies once she revives herself. Blind decreases accuracy a lot, and it causes enemies to miss. It's happened to me, and it's not fun. Blind sucks. Let's look at her skills. Nice little dagger jab. Jagger dab. Her second skill. I can never seem to see this skill here. I've tried turning her in many different angles, and I just can't see it. I'm guessing it's a shuriken. Her third skill is awesome. If you watch Naruto, you know why that's awesome. Anyway, that's my review for these characters today. I will make more videos if I get one of these characters. I will showcase them, and if I can complete Kali's dungeon, which I probably know I can't, I will also make a review on her. In the meantime, I will catch you guys later. It's cool. Signing out.